Today we're going to disassemble and assemble a Microtech clone. Hey guys, today we are going to disassemble and assemble this Microtech clone that I've owned about a year now. And I'm doing this video because our subscribers requested it. This should be an easy project, so let's go ahead and get started. The only thing you'll really need is a Torx bit and a little screwdriver. And the first thing you'll see that we're doing is taking off the pommel on the rear. And once you unscrew that, you should be able to take off the pocket clip. Now you can take out your screwdriver and start loosening the screws. These screws are tiny, so put them somewhere that they'll be safe. I always use a lid to a bottle to store all my screws to keep them. This model has 6 screws, so 1 down and 5 more to go. Now that you have all your 6 screws out of there, it should look like this. Now it's time to crack the case. Go ahead and apply some pressure and open the case up just like that. And at this point, be careful not to activate or slide out that blade because the spring is still attached on that frame. When you inspect this frame, make sure that there's no dirt in there. One error that people do with these Microtech clones is that they grease them up really good. And what I found is that prevents the operation of the knife. Like it doesn't work right. So just make sure it's clean, and take a Q-tip and solvent, whatever you want to use. Just make sure that that case is clean. After it's clean, you can spray some WD-40 or some sort of lubricant in there, but I warn you, don't put a lot, and make sure you wipe it down before you reassemble it. Now let's take a look at the other side of the case. I don't have all the technical names for these things, so let's just call this the spring slide frame. So if you look in there, that actual frame piece is what holds the double action spring. This is where all the magic happens, right in these pieces here. And the next step is to take out that spring frame, and the spring should be attached to it. So just go ahead and take it off. So let's go ahead and set down the case and the blade, and let's look at this spring rail here. So this operates by when you activate the knife, it loads this spring. Oh, and be careful because this thing will fly off. But as you can see here, it will slide on the blade back and forth and load it depending on which way you are trying to open or close the blade. So let's look at this spring here. So it has 2 catches on it, like an L bracket on each side, and what that does is that catches on the blade and loads it depending on if you're opening it or closing it. And you can see on the back of the blade there's 1 catch back there. And then as that loads up, it activates the spring, and then it allows you can see the little catches in there, those metal catches. So when the blade opens up, it hits 1 catch and keeps it open while the blade is loaded, and then once you close it, the blade already has tension on it, and it will close the blade, load it back the opposite way, and catch on the other metal catch in the frame. It's really cool. Once again, I don't have any technical terms for any of this stuff, but I understand how it works. To get the blade out of there, you have to release the catch in the back, and it should slide the blade all the way out. Now is your time to inspect this case. Make sure that there's no debris in there. Make sure your knife is clean. Make sure this is the time, what's really easy to do right now is to sharpen this blade. You don't have the actual case in the way, and you can really make it sharp. And there you go. This knife is completely disassembled. So now your job is to go through and clean all of these pieces if you haven't already. You know, take an old toothbrush and soap or solvent, whatever you'd like to use to get this thing all cleaned up. And then spray some WD-40 on it. Wipe it all down again, because these things don't work if they're jam-packed full of grease or oil or lubricant. So clean it, wipe it down, and get ready to assemble. Hey guys, I'm going to stop you right there just to let you know that we have new I Play With Knives t-shirts available now. Let everyone know that you play with knives, and let your mom know you didn't listen to her. If you would like one of these t-shirts, go to the description below and click on the merchandise link, or head on out to arizonalifestyles.square.site. Now it's time to assemble this thing, put it back together. So inspect all your pieces, make sure all the pieces are clean. Unlike mine, I didn't clean it. I just want to show you how to clean it. So take all these pieces, make sure all the pieces are there, all your screws are there, and let's put this thing back together. Step 1, slide your blade into the thick side of the case. And this thing only goes in one way. And it's the unsharp side that goes in first. If I have to explain that to you, you shouldn't play with knives. And to get it in, you have to release that first catch. So just press it up. You can see that how it works there. Press it up and slide it all the way back until the second catch catches. Now the next step is to grab that spring rail. Now you're going to grab that spring and place that spring in the cutout piece on that frame rail, or that spring rail, whatever we call it. You're going to stretch this spring out until it attaches on each side of the rail. This can be tricky at times, and there's a good amount of pressure on this spring, so go ahead and just stretch it out the best you can and attach it on each side. Make sure that each side is completely inside the groove. Now you're going to place that actual spring rail on the thick side of your frame or case, and this should fit in where it's supposed to go, just nicely. And your goal is to get the back side of your spring rail and connect it to the back of the knife. And the only way to do that is by sliding your knife a little bit forward. So you're going to have to slide it forward, the blade, so it is past the first catch or the first stopper. So as you see that in there, you have to slide it forward, and then your blade should be able to move forward and catch on the back side of that spring. And be careful with this step, because this means that there will be about 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 of an inch of your blade sticking out of the front of the case. So don't cut yourself. Now you're going to place that switch on that frame where it goes, and place the other side of the case on there without doing what I did, knocking that switch off. It's alright though, you can put it back and make sure that it catches in those grooves, and then hold it tight. Once you do that, you know, it's not going to work until you extend the blade out. So once you extend it out and it's locked, you have to lock it, then you can hold it tight and make sure the blade operates correctly. Just make sure that you hold it very tight right there to test it. Now, if it works, that means that everything is in there correctly. And if it doesn't work, that means that the spring is not attached to the blade. So you're going to have to break open the case again and make sure that you reattach that spring back to the blade. At this point, you're home free. Now you just need to put the screws back in the case. As you put these screws back in, just remember righty-tighty. And these torque screws, in my opinion, you can strip them out if you don't have the driver in in the groove. So make sure you apply enough pressure that they stay in the groove and tighten it down. I always say a half turn before it breaks, but just make sure that it's tight and very firm, as tight as you can get it before you strip it out, which is an odd thing to say. And I didn't mention this in the beginning, but a lot of these clones have different actual bolt patterns or screw patterns on these little bolts here, or screws. Some are Torx like this, some are the Microtech style, which I believe are like a 3-prong. So whatever you have on these little screws, make sure that you have the correct little bit driver to take them out and put them back in right. Now that all the screws are in, go ahead and operate your knife. It should be working as designed. And once again, if it doesn't, you got to take these screws out and crack the case and see what's going on in there. Maybe a spring came loose, maybe it's not on the knife blade in the rear, but if it's working, that's great. Should operate as normal. And the last step of the process is to put your pocket clip on. What I've noticed on these cheap clones is the coating on these cases, they wear through this black coating. So you can kind of tell where the pocket clip should go. And to be honest with you, I change it up. Sometimes I put it on this side, sometimes I put it on the other side. It's just really personal preference of how you would like to carry your knife in your pocket. Then take that pommel, tighten it down in the hole, use your bit driver as leverage, and tighten that thing all the way. And once it's tight, that's it. You've done it. You've assembled your Microtech clone. And this is a good time to say that this assembly process will be different depending on the model of the knife. This is for the Troodon. The guts of other models should be similar, but they may not be exact as this one. So just keep that in mind when you're trying to take apart your particular model of Microtech or Microtech clone. Hopefully this has helped you out today. So if you like this video, go ahead and leave a like. And check out our other videos and subscribe and turn on the notifications. And if you have any ideas for future videos, go ahead and leave a comment down below. Have a good one. Appreciate everyone watching.